Hi there, I'm from Fundza Literacy Trust, and we are looking at literacy particularly focused at high school level. We all know about the huge literacy problems and how we are failing our children in schools. And there are many organizations doing amazing work at primary school level and preschool level. We've heard from WordWorks, Nalibali, ORT, but there's very little being done at high school level. And I was a high school teacher at a school at Leap Science and Math School, where kids came from Langa Township, and I really struggled to get them to read. They had very little understanding that reading could be meaningful or interesting to their lives. And there was the texts that I had to give to them that I thought would excite them were actually difficult. They were at a higher level, and the texts that they could understand were aimed at 10, 11-year-olds because they were English second language speakers. So we decided, that's how Fundza started. We thought that if we got books and materials that were relevant and exciting to young people's lives, they would shift in their relationship and their understanding of text to see that reading could be meaningful to them. And that's what we did. We started with writing a book, and we put it on A4 sheets stapled together, distributed it to my students, and waited quite apprehensively at the result. And it was actually incredible. These chapters went viral. For the first time in my reading sessions, Sisole Faku was not trying to read on Mixit under her desk. She was actually reading these chapters and begging for more. And Fundza then developed a whole lot of books called Harmony High series. The first one that was written and tested at Leap Science and Math School was Broken Promises. And then there are a whole lot of more high-interest novels set in a fictional township high school. And you can see from the titles, Sugar Daddy, Jealous and Josie, Too Young to Die, that it deals with relevant and exciting issues for young people. The English is accessible. In fact, Fundza now distributes these books to over 160 organizations and schools around the country. Some of our beneficiaries are here, Ikamva and David Rattray Foundation, Presa, Nalibali, and the response has been overwhelming. The Rattray Foundation gave us this lovely term that we're now using. These books have started a reading revolution. However, books are expensive and it's hard to scale, to distribute it all over the country. It's just not possible. We can't give to more and more and more organizations. But there is something that teenagers are reading and writing on all the time, although it's not schoolwork. A device that's accessible to 75% of teens, and that is the cell phone. And what we have done is that we have put a library on a cell phone. It's available on the internet, on smartphones, and it's also fed through Mixit, which is a very cheap app, free to some users, which is also available on feature phones. I'm not sure if you know Mixit. I'm sure if you don't, your kids will. And so we have a site on Facebook. No, it operates like Facebook, but it's not actually on the internet. It's a completely separate app. And we have a library on a cell phone. Every week we load a new story, a 7-chapter story, and every day there's a new chapter loaded for our readers. And we also have full-length books. We have 2 of the Harmony High series on the site and all sorts of other things. And we've got 350,000 people have put Fundza as their contacts. And every day we have 10,000 people visiting our site to read, which has been incredible growth. What's a very interesting spin-off about using a cell phone is that, I don't know if any of you have background as teachers, or at even a tertiary level, where kids see text as fixed, as something that kind of is infallible, it came from the sky. There's little understanding of who generated that text or the fact that they can challenge it. Whereas on cell phones, these kids and it's also young adults, are used to writing and reading on cell phones. And so we have a comment. We ask at the end of each chapter, we ask a comment or we ask for comments from our readers. And we see then that we get real responses. They recognize that the texts are written by human beings. They say big ups to the author. There's a whole communication that goes with it. And we also are seeing, I think because it's not mediated by a teacher, these young people are interacting with the text directly, and they are getting confident about their own opinions, and they are developing a kind of critical literacy. And in fact, the person who manages our Mobi site has said she's really had to up her game as our readers get more and more critical and responsive. For example, these are the kinds of comments we get, and we value them. It shows our readers are thinking. The ending is too predictable. Was expecting a turning ending, really no climax in the story, but it's very educational, wink. So, they were supportive of us, but a little comment. Then the other comments show how deeply moving many of our readers find the stories. For example, we had a story on a very beautiful book, a memoir about a boy's struggles. I can understand this, so I'm going to translate it for you. Mbu, thanks, Brew. Your story inspired me. I've had a bad life. I even thought of committing suicide. But I just read your story and I don't think about it anymore. Thanks, your story has helped me out. You're a good guy, brave. Another comment, oh my God, such a beautifully written story. I cried when I read it, as I can relate to it so much. We can never choose family, and we just have to endure the pain that we experience. This story has given me so much courage to review my past and accept reality. So stories have a real ability to touch people's lives and shift the way that they see things in a way that normally, that information sheets or kind of fact sheets cannot do. And we've started using stories. I mean, obviously these bring up all sorts of social issues, but we have started using stories to overtly explore particular issues. For example, lately we ran a story sponsored by the UNHCR about refugees and the difficulties that refugees face. We got over 1,000 comments for that story. I just put 2 here as representative. I do also have the thought that refugees don't belong here, but this story kind of made me see things differently. Keep up the good work. I'm loving this story. Then another one, I'm Congolese myself, and it's painful when people see me as different, and when they call me kwere kwere, it just hurts. Sometimes I ignore, but the effect remains, and the heart never forgets. So we can see that writing can change people in a way that very little else can. But I think the key here is that there has to be complete and utter dedication to the magic of the story. People know when it's preachy. You can't just have a message and dress it up as a story. There has to be commitment to the characters. For example, the UNHCR story, when we got those refugees comments, that was a love story. It just so happened that one of the characters was a refugee, and so it reflected her difficulties and her challenges. So, and I think that's a huge point of Fundza. We pay for those 7-chapter stories, we commission writers and we pay for them, and we work with the writers now that we know what our readers think. So we make sure that they are quality stories. We also, we're very popular with writers now as well, which is another great spin-off, because writers can be paid for a story, so it gets closer for writing to be a profession in this country. Then we also encourage our readers to write in themselves. We have a Fundza fan section where people write they just send in their poetry, their stories. We edit it out for the spelling mistakes or the grammar mistakes, and then we publish it. It's not like teaching, there's no assessment. We're celebrating their voices. And we have also had fantastic responses here. Vutu Mova is one of our Fundza fans. He wrote a 20,000 word novel over the course of 5 months. He's a learner in Limpopo. He found us on Mixit. He wrote this whole story on his cell phone. It's called One Moment, but it's many moments, I must tell you. But so he's found this platform and he's found this voice. As you can imagine, feeding the story monster is quite a challenge. And we are mentoring writers to become professional writers. For example, Sonobiso Nkowa from Masiphumelele, we mentored him quite intensively in the beginning. Now he's one of our top writers on the site. I think his story called The Player, which was about a guy who had just, when he added one too many girlfriends to the mix, his life imploded. It's a very funny story, and I think it's had the most hits and the most comments on our site. Then we've also got Zimkita Mlongweni, who found us on Mixit. She hadn't ever written before. She decided she wanted to write under the fabulous pseudonym Vixine Jones. And then she's now working for us, editing the Fundza fans section and also becoming one of our very popular 7-chapter story writers. And then closer to home, there's a first-year student at this university, Anati Ndeo, who was one of our Fundza fans. And then we had a blog on our Mixit site, on our Mobi library. We've got a blog called The Diary of Zinzi Zwane. And Zinzi Zwane is a fictional character, but we just didn't have the capacity to keep up her story. And so now we employed this UFS first-year student who's doing journalism. He has now taken over this fictional woman, very spoiled brat, writing her diary, and we pay him to do that. So the last thing I want to say about Fundza is our team. And that is that we're very lucky because we've got people who are passionate about literacy and about creativity and writing, but we've also got, and who see technology as a very useful resource, but it's not something we're passionate about. But we've also got people on our team who are passionate about technology, the visionaries who see it as the future. They're doing all the research into it. And they also come from corporate and small business backgrounds. So they are constantly working on our strategy and building up partnerships with other organizations to extend our reach and to also extend other organizations' impact. But I'm just going to give a last word to a comment that we love, slightly politically incorrect, but it completely shows the engagement of our readers. This was one of our comments. Best book ever. Made me think of people in my life. Got me blushing and crying, even screaming at my phone like a retard. I learned a lot from this book, and I could read it over and over if I had a copy of my own. Right, so that's us, and that's our contact details. And Mixit, people who are on Mixit will understand this. Add Fundza as a contact on Mixit. That's what you need to do to join Fundza on Mixit. On the Mobi site, you can find us here on any internet site. But just for more information about Fundza, that's our kind of information site. This is where you can see our stories. And today, it's Saturday, you'll be able to read chapter 2 of our latest story, but you will be able to go and read all the other stories as well. They're all archived and they're all available. Okay, I hope I took my time.